Hey, man.
What's up, buddy? Pal.
Have you ever heard of Slab City?
Slab City. Yeah, it's a barbecue place downtown. Right?
Yeah. You can get big old slabs of ribs from Slab City.
Big old slabs. I mean, that
Come
would
on
be
down to Slab City, get yourself some big old slabs of ribs.
Okay, well, that's cultural appropriation of you because you came from Colorado. That's my culture.
Oh,
okay,
my God.
That's where I live here.
We have ribs in Colorado.
Yeah, but you
And
don't talk
barbecue
like
in
that.
Colorado.
We talk
Some
like
people,
that.
and no, you don't.
We say
Shut
that
up.
around here.
Okay.
Okay? And so you can't just come in here and start talking
All right.
like you grew up
In Missouri.
in Missouri.
I was waiting for you.
Like you grew up going to a school where they got bring your horse to school day.
Oh, my
Like
gosh.
you grew up where like you grew up where you had to ask your mama if that girl was your cousin before you declared you had a crush. Okay?
Is she my cousin? Mama. She my cousin?
You're doing it again.
Mama, Mama, is that my cousin?
If you would like to come on down to Slab City, because this is how we talk. What? We've never done a part 2.
Good
Can I have your hubcap?
a thingamajig? I got 20.
The official
National
report
Archive.
from the new person said, nuh-uh. I don't want this experience for our listeners. I don't want them to hear us quabble. You know who else has those ideas? Friggin' dictators. Things I learned last night. TILLN it.
Yeah.
Slab City, what is it?
Have you ever heard of Slab City?
I have not.
Slab City is a very interesting place.
Mm-hmm.
It's in what's known as the Salton Trough of the Sonoran Desert.
Salton Trough?
Salton Trough.
That's like a hipster coffee shop. There's Slab City right next door is Salton Trough. Right?
Yeah. It is the second lowest point in North America. It sits at 238 feet below sea level.
Okay.
So pretty deep.
What's the lowest point in North America?
Death Valley.
My life?
My life.
Wherever you are at any time.
That's the lowest point.
That's the lowest point.
You really are the low point of this country, aren't you?
It's your fault. What are you sitting like that? You got a hip problem?
I do. Well, this chair's crooked.
That's
so
not true.
I'm trying to counteract it.
So Death Valley is the lowest point. How low is Death Valley?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. We can look it up. How low is too low?
How low can you go?
Death Valley is at 282 feet below sea level. I swear.
So if we just dig enough.
Slab
if
City
we
was
just,
283 feet.
if we just dig a big enough hole in Slab City.
Yeah, it honestly doesn't have to go much deeper. Hold on. Slab City
Wait, it's the
is,
lowest point?
Oh, Slab City is 236 feet below sea level.
Death
Valley
Valley
is
is-
282
That's the lowest point.
below sea level. Yes, the lowest land. Like obviously, if you have water.
Caves go lower.
Yeah. So it's the lowest like surface land.
Well, where does the bottom of the Grand Canyon sit?
Not that low.
That wasn't what I asked, Timothy. Sorry. That wasn't what I asked, Timothy.
Thank you.
What
I didn't know.
asked,
I couldn't understand you.
the thing that I asked was, how low is the Grand Canyon?
All right, here I'm pulling it up. Okay, 2,000 feet above sea level.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I mean, the top of the Grand Canyon is at like 6,000 feet above sea level.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they got a lot of room to go down in the Grand Canyon, but this doesn't because the top of it.
You ever
is
spent time at sea level?
Yeah, have you?
Yeah.
Why'd you ask? What
Just,
I mean, what's
at the beach, just
Is
at sea level.
just hanging out at sea level today. I'm doing it again.
Yeah, man, that's not cool.
So
I really don't try to make political stands or whatever. And I'm not like trying to champion causes on our podcast. That's silly. But
So Slab City, there was in this region, there was a military base called Camp Dunlap. which was started in 1937
Okay.
and ran through the World War, the second one,
Part 2.
World War Part 2, and was in operation for quite a while after that. Eventually, over time, the use of that military base didn't completely diminish, but they decreased.
Yeah.
And so they made it significantly smaller, but left a lot of their installations there.
It's kind of like that thing behind Evangel.
Yeah, actually, really accurate.
Used to be a pretty big base, and then they sold part of it. Now it's a Christian college where kids don't make eye contact with each other because they're afraid of sin.
That's actually strangely, it's part of it's a National Guard base, part of it's a Christian college, part of it's an elementary school, part of it's a castle.
Pythian Castle, yeah. Which actually started our podcast.
Yeah, did it really?
Yeah, it was the day that we were on the couch and you went, have you heard the Pythian Knights?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Did I do a Pythian Knights episode?
No.
Interesting. Maybe I
should. We should do one for our 100th if we haven't done that already. I don't even know how many episodes we've done.
I don't think we're at anywhere near 100. I think we're at 60-something total. We're 30? Okay, anyways. So
figure it out later.
So the camp shrunk inside significantly, but they left all their installations there.
Okay.
And a little while after that, around the 50s or 60s, a bunch of retired vets who were stationed there were like, man, I miss those days. Remember the good old days?
Yeah. I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days while you're still in them.
Yeah. So they just kind of got together with some of their old vet friends and said, let's just go retire out there. And so they went.
In Slab City.
Yeah. They went over to the slabs, which were just the foundations of the buildings of the camp, and started parked their RVs there. And we're just we live here now.
Which is frowned upon when you do it in a neighborhood in Kansas City. I rolled up in my Honda Civic, rolled my windows down, middle of the night.
I live here now.
Neighborhood Watch comes up and they're like,
Neighborhood Watch. What are you watching?
And yeah, I was like, hey,
what you guys watching?
Their Ring doorbells. That's it. That's all they're watching is their Ring doorbells. And I said, hey, what's up? And they're like, what are you doing? And I was like, I live here now. And they said, well, this is my backyard. And I said, this was your backyard.
I live here. This is now my front yard, actually.
Slab City. The second one.
The second part 2. Yeah, so it started out with
they
just
showed
vets.
up. They're squatters.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. They're RV squatters. Yeah. So it's, for some reason, squatting's a little more okay if you have an RV, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have an RV, people are like, oh, you're just a traveler. But if you don't have an RV,
traveler. What is this, RuneScape? There was a traveler going by.
Okay, but for real, you if you pull up, you could walk up to a location and just try to stay the night there, and people will be like, you can't sleep here, man. But if you drive up in an RV, same location, people are like, oh, that's cool. Somehow the RV makes it okay.
How RVing works.
I do.
Okay.
Anyways, you can't just lay down in a Walmart parking lot. Someone's gonna come tell you, hey, you can't sleep here.
Oh, that is true.
But
if you do it in a van,
RV,
yeah.
And
you
people
park
are
your
like,
car,
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are like, that's cool. That's okay, man.
Okay.
Anyways, so it became like a little RV community.
We could try it.
For retirees.
I'll go sleep at Walmart tonight. It's warm enough. I don't care.
So they started moving out there. Over time, it became this big transient. I don't know if I want to say homeless community, because they're not homeless really.
Okay.
But just a bunch of people started moving there. Mostly retirees.
Okay.
But a lot of folk artists and hippies.
This is where Mumford & Sons started.
Yeah, actually. Ironically, it's not far from Coachella or Burning Man. It's in the same desert that those things happen.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. So it's the same desert valley
Springs?
where those happen. Yeah. Yeah.
This table is not big enough for you to keep doing what you're doing, by the way.
What?
You're lounging and you got
I don't know what you're talking about.
Your foot, which is in a gross flip-flop today.
It's not a gross flip-flop. It's a normal flip-flop.
Yeah, which is gross. A normal flip-flop is gross. Thank you. They're the same thing. And you turn it. You're I don't know if anybody can watch this video, but you're literally doing this over and over.
Yeah, I'm just...
Yeah, and your foot is
just chilling, man.
Is just... right on my leg. And I've tried. I straight up tried. I was like, I'm going to readjust.
I could tell you were trying.
I'm going to switch. Yes.
And I was adjusting to your adjustment.
Just harder. All right. And I try to let you continue your sentence. I don't want this experience for our listeners. I don't want them to hear us quabble.
We quabble all the time. So Slab City grew and grew and grew and grew.
How big did it grow, Tim?
At least
three times its size. That's how Whoville started, actually.
Yeah,
they all showed up with their Who RVs.
Their Who RVs. Whose RV is this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the community grow.
Yeah, you're fine. Go ahead.
The community grew.
Oh, that stroke you just had.
The community grew and became this place by, the mid 70s where people were, it was home. Like they lived there.
Yeah, they were like, I live in Slab City.
And so they would
Where they
set
got
up.
P.O. boxes?
No. So they
How
set
do you
up,
send mail to an RV?
You don't. It doesn't have an address. You set
You're
up a
telling
P.O.
me
box.
there's no, you're telling me Steve,
Yeah.
my mailman,
Yeah.
can't hunt down an RV?
You're not sure his name is Steve.
I know his name is Steve.
You're not sure that his name is Steve.
Yeah, I know his name is Steve.
You don't know. You think you know. You don't know.
Don't do this. You don't know my name's Jaron. I've been letting you believe that. I did that thing where you started calling me that, and now I'm committed, so I've changed my whole career to be Jaron Myers.
Yeah, you introduced
All
yourself.
because when we were in Scott Hall.
You were like, hey, I'm Jason. And I was like, sorry, Jaron?
Yep. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
All because in that psychology class next to Stevie and Reagan.
Yep.
Not my Reagan.
Not your
different Reagan.
But you wanted her to be your Reagan.
Don't worry about that.
And then
different times. And actually, I'm only attracted to girls named Reagan.
Reagan. Yeah, what's your type? Reagan's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just the
you know
name.
what?
I just
My
didn't know
dating
the
life
name.
was terrible, and then I just sprinkled in some oregano.
Yikes.
So anyway, yeah, you called me by the wrong name, and I committed. So you're not 100%. Don't do this to me. Don't sow doubt in my mind. Anyway, you're telling me my mailman can't hunt down an RV?
I'm sure you could hunt down an RV, but most RV people are like, that's too complicated.
When I have
Get a
my
PO box.
RV, I've spray painted an address on it. Spray painted just giant on the side.
And yeah, so whenever you order something, you have the numbers, and
Yeah.
then you're just like, oh, what street are we on today? And you check the street, and you're like, oh, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're like, we got to stay here till the mail gets here.
Yeah, and the neighborhood watch comes, and they're like, "Hey, this is my yard."
You're like, well, hey, I'm
and
expecting
I'm
some
like,
mail.
"Hey, if it comes here, will you call? Here's my number. Will you call me?"
I'll just drive back. My house moves. Yours doesn't have that feature.
I know where to find you. That's
You can't find me because, the
yeah. I got
vehicle
it.
thing.
Because the whole
the recreational thing.
roaming vehicle.
Doesn't stand for roaming.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's recreational.
Google it. You don't know that.
I do know that. I could not be more
You don't know
certain.
that. But you don't know that.
Yes, I do. Recreational vehicle.
Turns out you were right. I guess maybe we should trust our natural instincts.
Okay, whatever, man.
His name's Steve.
It's not an instinct, it's a knowledge. And you don't know that. You said, hey, ask this guy what his name is when we pulled up.
Shut up. We talk every day. He's got an unfair advantage. He sees my name on the
He sees
mail.
your mail. Yeah, he's got your mail. He reads your mail.
He reads my mail, if you will. Anyway. So they're out there in Slab City. They've developed it. They've got a mayor.
Yeah. So they call it the last free place on earth.
Because there's no government.
There's no government. There actually is literally nothing. So there's no government. There's no rent. There's no property ownership. There's no
So
utilities.
it's not the last.
There's
This is
no
what I hate, though.
infrastructure.
Because I've seen these things popping up on TikTok, right?
Yeah.
Where these people have these like communes or whatever.
Yeah.
But your commune can't exist apart from the infrastructure that exists outside your commune.
Well, here's the thing. These guys are pretty self-sufficient. The only thing that they rely on the outside world for is water.
That's ground level like that's not self-sufficient. That's what I'm saying. Is that you're great if water keeps coming out of the spigot. If the infrastructure is already in place, you're relying on the external.
Well, yeah, that's true. You're not wrong.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can say you're self-sufficient, but unless you're literally living off the rainwater.
True.
Then you're not.
There's no rain. There's no rain there. It's a desert. So
that's what I'm saying.
They go in and they buy.
And they're pumping all that water from the coast.
Yeah. So
it's got White Claw in it. It's coming from LA. They're just dumping White Claw in the water. That's all they're doing, you know?
Yeah, we ran out of water years ago out here.
We just but we do have reservoirs of White Claw. Because, Truly came, took over, everyone's got a seltzer now. People abandoned the White Claw in 2019. And now we use it to water our lawns. The grass is dead.
All of our grass is dead. It's weird. I don't know why.
For a while, it turned purple. That was fantastic.
That was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool thing. A lot of tourists died. A month.
All of them died too. All of them died too.
They came and then they died, so they never came back.
Yeah. So I'm saying, because I see TikToks. It's just like they're like, oh yeah, we're living outside of we're our own. We set our own rules. We're our own masters. All this stuff. It's like, okay,
sorta.
You're arrogant because you can't exist without the infrastructure that's already been put in place.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I agree.
I have respect for communities that are like self-sufficient.
Yeah, they're literally off the grid. Yeah, these guys are pretty well off the grid. There's no electricity. There's no utilities. There's no running water.
That's what I'm saying.
They like go in and buy gallon drums of water from the nearby town. Occasionally they'll go in to buy food. But for the most part,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
You're going in and buying food. You're going in and buying. You're going into.
But for the most part, with the exception of
no
those,
one's
those
coming
two
to Slab
things,
City for those things.
With the exception of those two things, really nobody there works. They just a lot of them do art or other things in the city. Like there's a guy who.
But what you're describing is literally any retirement community.
But it's not just retirees anymore. So it started out as a lot of retirees. You could be
telling me about whatever that gigantic place in Florida is.
So you think those retirees are driving into town to buy a 10-gallon drum of water?
Is the same as the retirees in Florida doing a parade for whichever person they're voting for on their golf carts.
Whichever person they're voting. Okay. All right.
It's the same thing.
That's
Did I just ruin the rest of the episode? Now you're like, well, I guess this isn't as impressive. Right. Now they're I just had a realization.
Community. I was like, man, I was like, honestly, like that's a good point. Like, retire. This is gonna sound so. Retirees.
I would love to clip this out of context if you could write this down. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. They're not contributing to society anymore. So should they be allowed to vote? Like, should we let them
I'm
vote?
glad you said vote. I thought you were going somewhere else. I thought you were going to be like, should they be allowed to live anymore?
Should we just
Yeah, we might as well just cap them. Yeah. You don't contribute anymore. You quit working. You're capped. Out. Yeah.
Bomb. Gone. Mm-hmm. So anyways.
You know who else has those ideas? Freaking dictators. It's a really good system, Tim. If you don't contribute,
well, here's the thing: if you can't vote until you're 18 years old, then why should you get to vote past 80? Like there should be a cap, Like if there's an early side, there should be a late side. It's just whatever.
You tried to physically sneak out of that one. You went
whatever. I'm sneaking away from this.
Hey, thanks for being here for Things I Learned Last Night. If you want bonus content, early access to episodes, and a whole lot more, including a Discord channel, we have that available to our Patreon supporters. To sign up for that and for more info, text TILLN to 66866.
Okay, anyways, all right, here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. Listen to this.
Where does it get interesting?
Not yet. Let me finish laying the foundation, okay? But it's a full community.
I get it. Yeah, it's a community
with its own so there's a guy there who runs a internet cafe. He's got a bunch of solar panels and batteries that he's hooked up to these solar panels. And I guess here's another weird place where he's not sufficient is he gets internet from some satellite internet service. But he flicks those on in the morning and he makes coffee. He hates coffee, but he makes it for all of his guests, and then they can just come and use his internet. But what's interesting is there's a lot of...
So it's not just old people who live out here. It's all these Instagram influencers too.
Yeah.
They're out there just like... Oh yeah, no, I work for a company. They're based in Phoenix, but I live out here.
But I live here in Slab City, and then they just work at this weird tent coffee shop.
Are you guys interested in buying essential oils?
Anybody wants them? Yeah, but here's the thing: nobody there actually like. There's not really an economy because they just give all this stuff away for free or take donation or like they'll cover the cost. So like there's one guy in town who has a shower. And so
everyone uses that shower.
They just give him $3 to use for the gas and the water that they use because he hooks it up to a big water tank that he goes and gets filled, and then propane to heat the water.
Propane.
Yeah, what are you looking
Why
at me
did
like
you
that?
say it like that? Propane.
That was normal.
Propane.
That was your body's response to
my
making
body
fun
was
of
like,
me.
sorry about that. Audio listeners, take that out. Ugh. I hate hearing those noises.
Yeah, that's rough. But yeah, but other than that, everything's free. Like, they have a library, free. They have a nightclub called The Range, free. And people
nightclub?
And the way it works is it's like if you want to do it, you do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't do it. And it's just kind of this very big like society built on like do unto others.
Big. I mean, how many people you estimate live out there?
Okay, so here's what's interesting about it is there's about 150 year-round residents.
Okay.
But in the winter, they get what they call snowbirds, who are people who are escaping the cold in the winter.
I've never heard this term before.
Okay, shut up. So the snowbirds go south for the winter, and the population rises to around 4,000 over the winter. Yeah. So big community through the winter months. But the summer months, only about 150 people stay there year round. Because in the summer,
it's hot.
Average high out there is 125. So it's a hot climate.
The only people who stay are the meth addicts.
Yeah. Well, no. So what's interesting?
Do they have police?
There is a sheriff in the area, but the sheriff in an interview said that he largely leaves Slab City alone for a couple of reasons. He says, one, they have a pretty strict moral code. So he says they honestly kind of govern themselves. He's like, there's usually not really any serious crime out there. He's like, there's a lot of drug crime and like drug use. And he's like, but I'm not super concerned about it because they don't harm each other. And he was like, so he's like, honestly, most of those people out there, this is kind of a last resort place for them. And he's like, I'm not going to make their lives harder. And so they kind of just let them do their thing. If every once in a while, border patrol will come through just to make sure nobody there is illegal. And then if something serious happens, they know how to reach him, and he'll come help in a serious issue. But for the most part, their big mantra there is like,
just
do whatever you want. Yeah. And as long as it doesn't affect other people. So I watched a documentary about it, and it was really interesting. There's kind of the guy who runs the internet cafe today is kind of like the leader of the town, and nobody really established that, but everybody really reveres him and listens like to whatever he says.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is the meth addicts in town usually don't stay long because their drug use impacts the other townspeople.
Okay.
And because it impacts the other townspeople, that's when there's a problem. Yeah, and it's interesting because it's like
they go, "Hey, you can't do that."
Yeah, it was the most interesting thing because he literally just came to her camp, like in this. He kicked one out in this. He came to a camp and was like, "Hey," he's like, "I realize you're addicted to this drug," and he's like, "At the end of the day, you should be able to control this." And he's like,
right.
And this has happened over and over again that you have kept us all up like 3 a.m. You were strung out and making all this noise. And he's like, that's just not cool for all of us here. So you got to go.
That's just not cool.
No, literally.
If you could be more cool.
It was literally that even keel. And he was just like, you got to go. And the girl was like sobbing, but she like was like, okay. And like packed up and just left. And like.
But like, what are you going to do if she refuses?
I don't know. Like.
No one's done that yet?
I don't know. I'm sure it's happened.
Let's do it.
This is our Slab City now.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. My name is John From.
I was trying to work in a joke. Listen, I'll bring cargo if you worship me.
I am God.
I don't want you to like get all like confused, but you should probably tell your kids If they don't worship me,
then things are gonna be
things are gonna go pretty rough.
Pretty rough for them. So that's actually a good segue. The town is pretty famous, obviously because it's like this like squatter town.
Yeah.
But because it has these very interesting and quirky neighborhoods and kind of locations. And honestly,
different neighborhoods.
Yeah, and honestly, if you listen to the list of these, it sounds like the locations in a video game, like in an open world video game. Listen to this. I'm just going to read you the list of areas. So there's Poverty Flats, Nyland Heights, Little Canada. That's where all the Canadians stay.
Yeah.
Slab City Singles, Drop 7.
Hold on. Slab City Singles. First of all, these sound less like town names and more like bowling team names.
I can see that. Drop 7 and Drop 8. There's the Coliseum, which is actually the 2 big water storage tanks that they used to have that they ripped the roof off of and just graffitied. And I can't find anything that says this, but I strongly suspect that they just have battles in there because it's called the Coliseum. It's just a giant open air.
But I mean, it's the only thing that makes sense, all right? Because it's called the Coliseum, all right?
It's covered in like war graffiti.
Yeah. They fight to the death out there.
That's where they settle all their issues.
Yeah, they say, hey, listen,
maybe
lady,
at the Coliseum.
You're freaking out until 3 a.m. Here's your choices. You can either leave.
Yeah.
Or you can fight Samson.
At the Coliseum.
In the Coliseum. Whoever wins becomes Samson. That's like the name. You know what I'm saying?
That's the top
like
fighter.
The top fighter. Samson. You know? And I mean, so there's always just this is the Samson from 2017 to 2019.
Yep.
You know?
It's kind of like a pharaoh.
Yeah. And when he dies, someone else becomes Samson.
Someone else is Samson. You are our new Samson. There's the Coachella Canal, which is the canal that runs through. Which I assume is what Coachella is named after.
Okay.
Maybe.
Or is the canal named after Coachella?
Who knows? Maybe a little both. Salvation Mountain, which you may have heard of. That's probably the most famous thing.
Church people.
Yeah.
Evangelists.
The Range.
The Range sounds spooky.
That's their club, their nightclub or open air bar thing, their concert venue. Here's my 2 favorites. Are you ready? East Jesus and West Satan. So those 2 communities are really interesting communities, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
They were started by hippies.
Yeah, obviously.
East Jesus was first. And East Jesus was started after Salvation Mountain, which gives context to it, but it's not a religious thing. East Jesus is like an artist installation. And so their big thing was whatever waste we have, we're going to turn into art. And so bottles, tires, cars.
And over a decade, we've built this 500-foot tall statue of Jesus Christ.
Out of trash.
Out of trash.
Because isn't he just the great recycler, right?
When you
like
really
he just
think about
restores.
it. Yeah, I was going to go for restore. Yeah.
But it's,
all of us are trash.
All of us are just trash.
And he gave us purpose and meaning and value.
Yep.
But the main thing is that you're trash.
But
that's like kind of the central
thing. For you
thing.
to learn. Yeah, you suck.
And if you remember anything from this talk, don't remember that he gave you value, purpose, and love. But I remember that you were trash. So write that in your journal.
Write that in your journal. So a lot of the art installations that they have there are like heavily political against society, like capitalism and Western society.
Okay.
There is a massive wall of TVs, which I'm gonna see if I can pull.
What kind of movies do they watch? They just watch Elf on repeat?
I'm gonna pull this up. So they're massive walls of it's like old TVs from like the 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
Like old TVs.
So it's basically where all the TVs from the Richmond TV vigilante go.
Yeah, actually, he might source his addiction from here.
You think he's driving a U-Haul with box TVs from Slab City to Richmond, Virginia?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so each of the TVs.
Were you going to show me that picture? Or were you just going to pull that out?
Yeah, I'm just going to describe it to you. So they're big TVs with white paint over the screen, and then big red words.
Oh yeah, I see.
Highlighting something.
Things that they say, which is like, you need a man. You need more stuff. Standard of beauty. You're not good.
My favorite is white people yelling at each other. So these are
That's actually on there.
It's the sort of things that you see on
what
TV.
What to think. Blah. We own you. Okay.
Yeah. It's
you have the wrong opinion.
Yeah. It's kind of dark, but honestly, like, it's like, well, I mean,
I've seen this.
Right. Yeah.
It's outside of every house in Arkansas.
Yeah, so there's
with their big Trump flags and their Confederate flags. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I've seen this.
So yeah,
they got signs that say the media is lying to you.
Yeah, they've got one that says Democrats are evil. Right next to it says Republicans are evil. It's crazy.
I mean, we're all evil. Jesus actually said that, so that's fun.
Yeah, bad news, bad advertising. So they just got.
We're part of that, Which screen do we fit on? It's one of those little Facebook games from like 2010.
Yeah.
Where you tag yourself. Tag yourself. We're misinformation. We're like might be facts.
Might be facts. Pretend facts. So
speculated facts.
Speculated facts. Thank you. So they just have a bunch of things on there that are like.
That's a callback.
Oh, is it?
Just making sure you know.
Never heard of that one. Just a bunch of political art pieces made out of literal garbage, and some of them are very creepy. Like they've got like mannequin legs like sticking out of things, like spooky looking stuff that you're like, oh, this is weird. I don't like this. And what makes it even creepier is they're in this desert heat, so most of this art like slowly melts.
Yeah,
and so it like deteriorates and melts. So and they're constantly adding to it because the whole thing is they don't waste any of their trash. So they're constantly adding trash to these art pieces. So they're like in a state of like ever changing, and either deteriorating from getting destroyed by the climate or growing from people adding garbage to it.
It's like the Precious Moments Chapel.
Yeah, actually pretty accurate.
Yeah,
pretty similar.
He says it's never finished until I'm gone.
Until I'm done. And so West Satan was another neighborhood.
They just waste trash. That's all they do.
Just love capitalism.
They love to take trash and waste it.
Yeah, they're a bunch of ex CEOs, and they actually ex NBC CEOs.
Oh, good. Yeah.
No, they actually. This is one of the most interesting neighborhoods because there's the least amount of information. They're very closed off to outsiders. They don't welcome people in. They have like makeshift fence around it that says like keep out, and like signs that say like enter to become my next target and like creepy stuff like that. Because they just don't want anybody to come in. And it's pretty clear that they chose the name West Satan to like make fun of East Jesus and the hippies over there.
Because they're the angry group.
Yeah, they seem like the angry group. But they keep to themselves. They do their own thing, and nobody really cares. So,
I would love to see the Slab City Royale. You send one fighter from each neighborhood.
To the Coliseum.
I would love to see the Kansas City Royale.
Really, any
you
city.
send a Parkville person.
They also have their own hot springs. The hot springs of Slab City, where they go and do
I've got one of those
springs things. That's a hot tub.
That's the same thing.
But Salvation Mountain's probably the most famous part of Slab City. It is just like it sounds, a mountain where you go to get saved. That's not accurate. But the artist probably would think so. The guy's name is Leonard Knight. He built it. He was born in 1931, died in 2014.
Wow.
And he served in the United States military. And when he came back from the military, he wanted to do something to help people find Jesus. And so his first idea was...
Mountain.
No, that wasn't his first idea.
I got to build a mountain.
He started small with a hot air balloon that he would paint a Bible verse on the side of, and then on the other side of it, write God is love, and then just send that hot air balloon flying over cities around America. Here's the problem. He didn't have a hot air balloon, so he just bought a bunch of canvas and stuck it together.
Try to make one?
And then took his stove and trying to make a hot air balloon out of a bunch of canvas in his stuff.
You're lying to me. You're
what he tried
making
to
this
do.
up.
That's what he tried to do. And it didn't work.
Obviously. He's out there. There's a great. He's lighting all four.
Nothing.
He's like, oh, it's not taking out. Oh, you know why? Because I left the pans in the bottom. Let me pull that
Let me
out.
pull all the pans out. It's too heavy. Yeah, so that didn't work. So then
Because he was like, I mean, I can figure out how hot air balloons work. It's got to be just.
it's just some heat and a balloon thing.
Yeah.
And so
No,
it's like,
I didn't
can
know
make
why it
one.
worked. I mean, I got in the basket and just had a hairdryer and was just, nothing seemed to.
Maybe it wasn't hot enough. So I switched to my oven. Yeah, so that didn't work. So he
Okay.
yeah, so this didn't work. This was in the 70s. In 84, he discovered Slab City, and he was enamored with it. He thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And that's where he had his next idea. He was like, okay, I'll build a mountain. He's like, I couldn't build a hot air balloon. I'll build a mountain.
I'll start with this stove. Because this isn't going anywhere. I'm going to make sure it never does.
So he built
Made
this
a mountain. Out of what?
mostly adobe and straw, and just started stacking it on top of each other. And then with painted the outside of it to be this big, colorful thing that the centerpiece says God is love, and then just covered it in Bible verses. He worked on it until 1989 when it collapsed. And he, having a heart of gold, said, I believe this is God's way to tell me that my construction method was not safe. And so he started over. And this time he built it using adobe, straw, and latex paint. Same thing. No, but he actually started adding random other materials like sticks and twigs and car parts to strengthen it.
Yeah. And stoves.
And stoves.
Stuffins.
Stuffins. And so from 1989 for the next, really until he died, like 27 years from that point, was adding to this mountain.
You got a picture of it?
Yeah, I do. You've probably seen this before. It's pretty famous. Oh gosh, this picture is tiny. Jeez.
I really want you to flip a picture of Pikes Peak around. That's what I really want you to do.
Yeah, I mean, you might have seen this before.
I've never seen
You've
this
never seen
before.
this?
No.
So yeah, it's just this big mountain, really, really colorful mountain.
How tall is it?
It's about 3 stories tall.
Okay.
So it's a mountain. I mean, I'm a hill, but I mean.
But I mean, you're not doing anything out there all day. You just got, you're just like, what are you doing over there?
Yeah.
Working on my mountain. What was that? I'm working on my mountain.
Building the mountain.
Building the mountain.
Yeah, so it's, to describe it to our audio listeners, it's super colorful. He's got like every color in the rainbow, like literally whatever can of paint he had, what he painted the outside of it with. And then it's covered.
To describe it to our audio listeners, it's
Bible verses.
kind of like a 3-story mountain. If you can picture that, like just a hill.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically a hill. I don't know what footage I consider something a mountain, but it's not 3 stories.
Yeah, so and it says God is love, and there's a big heart underneath it.
And a big cross on the top, huh?
Yeah, and then the heart inside the middle of it, it has a sinner's prayer. It says, "Dear Jesus, I'm a sinner. Please come into my heart." And that's it. And so, and there's a giant cross at the top of it. So the idea, the idea for him, genuinely, was people will see this and they will become a Christian.
Yeah.
And he, for years, passersby would stop by to see it. He would give them full tours. He would stop what he's doing, give them a full tour, and then tell them about Jesus. And this was his ministry, his whole life. And he strongly believed in it. He eventually started a church in a tent nearby, and it's the Slab City Church. And
I was wondering if there was a church out there.
yeah, and he would baptize people in the Coachella Canal, which is, I mean, given its name, the best thing.
We used to baptize people over in that section, but now that's West Satan, so
So
we're
we
not
don't go
allowed
there. And what's interesting is he didn't pay a dime for this. It was completely built by donors, sort of. I mean, he built it, but donors gave him the paint. So people would drive by and they just drop off paint. And be like, hey, I got like 10 gallons of paint. You want it?
And was he just put another layer of paint on, and once that dries, that's how you build a mountain.
Well, he built the mountain out of the adobe, and so he took adobe from the surrounding desert to build the mountain, and just random trash he found pretty much to strengthen it, and then he painted it with donated latex from donated latex paint.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for checking out Things I Learned Last Night. If you like what we're doing and you want to help us do more of it, one way you can do that is to purchase some merchandise. We've got mugs, t-shirts, all that stuff on the websites, TILLN.com/merch. If you go to TILLN.com/merch, all of that is there for you to check out, and we would love for you to be a part of the show and helping us to do more things. So thanks for checking this out, and back to the episode.
And it's still being painted to this day. So he died in 2014.
People are still adding to it?
He died in 2014, and a group of locals came together, and they actually, this is like the only like legal entity that anybody in that city is a part of. It is a not-for-profit that exists to maintain Salvation Mountain. So there's Salvation Mountain Inc. is what I think they called it, but they're a non-for-profit organization. I don't think they understand how that works.
Yeah.
But they just take donations.
INK.
Oh.
Because that's what they put on the mountain.
So they exist just to maintain it. So it's a group of about 7 people who they will hang out outside as like security and to give tours to tourists that drive through the area, and then maintain it. And so they're constantly painting it or doing patches because the desert environment is really not good for this.
Not great for anything, really.
Yeah. And so it's in a state of constant decay. And so these people are keeping it up and patching holes as they pop up, or repainting sections as they dry up or melt or whatever. What's really interesting about this is that...
there we go. Get to the interesting part.
Okay.
Well, here's what's really interesting.
Is that well, he built a museum to go along with it, like connected to it, which is made out of the same thing. He built the first layer of it is the hot air balloon that failed. So the dome, the first layer of it is that hot air balloon that he stuck up, and then he built on top of that hot air balloon.
So the hot air balloon is in the mountain.
Well, it's in a dome on the side of the mountain. That's the museum. And so the museum, what's interesting about the museum is what he would do is when people, this guy is just so interesting. When people came to Salvation Mountain and he gave them a tour and he kind of did his little gospel presentation, if people accepted Jesus into their heart, he would thank them by asking them to give them something of theirs so he could commemorate.
Thank you so much for being here.
So he could remember.
Can I have your hubcap?
Yeah, exactly.
Can you guys have a spare tire? I'd like it.
And so he collected all these little trinkets from people.
What y'all got in that trunk?
And so this museum is just shelving like all around this like dome
stuff that you can
of
just
the
leave?
random stuff that people gave him after they accepted Jesus. And that's his museum. And it's just random trinkets and odds and ends. It looks like
right up there.
It looks
That's
like
a tail light I got from this couple that came through. Let's see, 74. I hope they're doing okay. I think they named their kid after me. I think you just made that up. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I haven't heard from them, but I think they did. I would talk after the conversation. Yeah. It looks like Ariel's bedroom where she's like singing in there. Collecting stuff. A thingamajig? I got 20.
Disney created that. Did you know that?
So he just sells all these trinkets. But what's crazy is this became like a big, almost like tourist destination.
Sure.
And some society in some art society in California started petitioning the United States Congress to protect it. And the United States Congress ended up in 2002 declaring it a national art treasure. And so it's like a protected piece of art.
I would like to be declared a national art treasure. Well, okay, so that's an NAT.
Yeah.
And that's different than an NFT.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So a national art treasure.
Yeah. A NAT.
Is not the same.
It's not the same. It's a different thing.
But it could be an NFT.
You could in theory take a picture of it and NFT it, but I mean,
But other people have pictures of it.
But other people have pictures of it, just like all NFTs. Anyways, in '94, the county hired a toxic waste specialist to test the soil around Salvation Mountain.
Yeah.
And showed that it had really high levels of toxicity. And so they were threatening that they would have to take it down because it was dangerous to the environment. And the people of Slab City were like, hold up. Can we hire somebody to test it? And they were like, sure.
I guess.
And so
that person went. Looks good to me. Here you go.
not toxic.
Not toxic. Put that in the museum, please. We put that.
Every time you come, you got to leave something.
Put that in the museum.
Put that in the
please?
museum. How could this place be toxic? Because it just made me a Christian. This is not toxic
Alex,
at all.
put this in the freaking museum. Take it. Alex, quit looking at the screen. Alex, reach in the frame.
There is no Alex. But yeah, so this
Alex purposely did not turn around. That really made me mad. He literally was just like,
just facing the computer and ignoring you. So this other independent organization, I hate you. This independent organization came back and said, yeah, there's no toxic levels in this soil at all.
yeah, of course, obviously.
And the county was like, okay, yeah, you're right.
It kind of was like, sure.
Fine. So they got it to stay, and then not long after that, it became
The official
National Art
report from
Treasure.
the new person said, nuh-uh.
Here's what's fun about this. It's had a lot of media coverage.
Is this
appearances
still
in
about
media.
Salvation Man? Or is this
Yeah.
Slab City? Okay,
It's had a lot of coverage in the media. The music video for Kesha's song "Praying" it was partially filmed here. It was actually filmed all around Slab City and the surrounding area, but part of it happened here. My favorite is that the cover of Third Day's album "Revelation" is an artistic rendering of Salvation
really?
Mountain.
Let me see.
I'll show you.
Third Day.
Third Day.
The Nickelback of Christian music.
Yep. This is their
What was
cover.
Third Day's big song?
I don't know. They've had a couple. I think Photograph.
Huh.
Yep. So they were like, yeah, it's an artistic rendering of that mountain. What was it? Their like third release, fourth release? I don't know.
I can't think of a single Third Day song right now.
Well, let's see. The band Third Day. Third Day.
Third Day.
Third Day. Third Day. Third Day. Third Day.
I can't think of a single song. Hold on, I'm getting there.
Yeah, see what you got. They have an album called Conspiracy Number 5.
I can't think of a single song. Tell me the song title.
Alien, Angus D. It's Angus Day. Skies Fall Down, or Sky Falls Down. Come Together. 40 Days.
I can't think of how.
Sing a song. This is all the stuff they got rewards for. You Are Good to Me. God of Wonders.
That wasn't them though. That's them covering that song.
Was it?
So hold on, sing a song, man.
God of Wonders by Third Day.
But did they write that?
I don't know.
God of wonders beyond our galaxy.
I think they did.
We'll see you in Slab
Cutlass covered it.
City. Yeah, of course Cutlass covered it.
Oh, wait, hold on. Maybe
I
not.
knew it wasn't. I knew it's like a 90s song.
Um,
God of Wonders feels like a... Anyway,
yeah, the choir wrote it.
we're on a
Wait.
we're on a Christian music tangent. Let's get out of this.
Okay, yeah, okay, it's fine. I
do
think they
that
did.
later.
I think they did. Okay, anyways. So yeah, Third Day, it's got the cover art of it.
I can think of a lot of Casting Crown songs and Mercy Me songs.
Fair.
Can't think of a single Third Day song right now. Anyway.
So, Slab City is what's crazy about this city is that there's really nothing about it that should make it last. Like, there's no economy, there's nothing feeding the city. It's just a bunch of transient people and then people who are just like, I live here now. And they don't really do anything with their time except for make art out of stuff. But what's wild is you watch videos of them and they love life. They love it there. And what's really interesting is there was a guy named Rusty who in the 90s was like the town mayor, but like they didn't call him mayor, but they always have like a revered person that everybody looks up to and listens to what they say. And they're like kind of the leader of the pack. Rusty.
See, we shouldn't publicize that because when you say that, I think, yeah, I could be that person. I could go to Slab City, like I could take over, you know? That would be a dream of mine is to take over a cult. I don't want to start one.
I don't want to start. I want to inherit a cult.
I want to inherit a cult. Yes.
This is my inheritance.
Yes. And that's what we would call it. We are the inheritance.
The inheritance. What Rusty said that was really interesting, like poetic even is.
Okay.
What? He said, they said, what's something you've been here for a long time? What's something that changed over the time that you've been here? And he said, there ain't so many chickens. He said, used to be a lot more chickens running wild. I don't know what happened to them. They ain't around no more. Just kidding. He did say that, but that wasn't what I was going to say. I was just scrolling through this article.
You just looked through quotes? You were just like, what are Rusty from Slab City quotes? And he's got a whole list. Ain't no more chickens around here.
I was scrolling through this article that was an interview of him. And then I hit that and I was like, oh yeah, this is funny. I forgot that he said that. What
was the quote you're thinking of?
I'm getting there, man. Okay. So he said, it was really interesting this is how he said it. He said, it was really interesting is that they asked him if there's like a law or a moral code or something that people abide by out here. And he said, like things that you have to do. And he said, well, that's the thing. He's like, there's nothing you have to do out here. He's like, out here, it's all just what you want to do. He said, once you get out of that old situation where you're punching a time clock and doing what somebody else tells you to do, he says, well, you're free and you do what you want to do. Out here, people want to get along with their neighbor. I tell you, it grows on you, and that's all there is to it. And so it's really interesting because it's like there really isn't a crime problem. That's why the sheriff doesn't really deal with it. Like people do whatever they want. A lot of them do drugs. A lot of them drink a lot, and they don't really do anything that amounts to much other than the art that they make or building the ranch or the Salvation Mountain or whatever it is. But everybody just does what they want.
I made a mountain.
Yeah, I made a mountain, man. What have you done? And so
he's like, oh yeah, you got TikTok followers?
I made a mountain. So yeah, and it looks really different.
Whole lives for a happy family. They're trying to climb the ladder.
Yeah,
you know,
and I'm climbing a mountain that I made.
Yeah, some people try to climb Everest, and I was like, I'm gonna make Everest. Making
Mount
Everest,
more like my Everest.
Okay. That does sound like something that like Everest College would do, though. They'd be like, my Everest.
Yeah. So, but it's not like a lot of other like we talked about Tunneltown.
Yeah.
And this is a place like where people
kind of like that, but not
at all because there isn't crime. There isn't people.
I'm gonna visit Tunneltown.
Okay. There isn't people getting killed out here. There isn't people like people do drugs, but it's not a debilitating thing. Like people are they're just living life. It's one of the wildest things.
I think it's one of those things where it's probably a bit harder to get there. You know, like it's a little bit more of a journey to get out to Slab City than
it's in the middle of the desert.
Right.
Yeah, so you kind
of have to have the means to get out there.
Yeah.
And if you have the means to get out there, then you're not you know.
Yeah. Rusty, in his interview, he talked about how there's kind of two groups of people. There's the older people and the younger people who come out. So the younger people kind of get out here for the anarchy thing, like to get away from responsibility. And he's like, what really kind of happens is we kind of take care of them because they don't understand how to survive out here.
Yeah.
And so we ended up taking care of them a lot. But he wasn't like frustrated about it. He was just like matter of fact about that's the way it goes.
This is what happens.
Yeah. So, There was for a little bit an effort to like take over Slab City and like develop it, but a community group came together and they stopped it in the county. They stopped it from being able to take it over.
They're like, no.
And now the county officials actually kind of protect it and are like, these people aren't hurting anybody. Same attitude as that sheriff. They're like, they're not hurting anybody. They're not hurting each other.
All it's got to take is some bigwig CEO, real estate developer to come out there with his big map.
Yeah.
Right. His 3D model where he's just like, listen, we could put a mall out here. You've seen us do it in Minneapolis and in New Jersey. All right. I'm saying Slab City.
Slab City.
Imagine it's got a mirror maze.
It's interesting you say that because it sort of happened.
They developed it?
Sort of. But here's the thing. I knew this from the start.
What?
We don't have time for that. So we're going to have to fiddle that off and do a part 2.
Okay, well, we've never done a part 2 before. So if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I'm impatient, I don't even want to wait for part 2. That's fine. It's available right now on Patreon. All you got to do is text TILLN to 66866. Every week, our Patreon supporters get an episode early. They get the episode a week before everybody else. And if you cannot wait for part 2 of this, because apparently this is where it gets crazy, you can text TILLN to 66866, sign up as a Patreon member. You also get access to our Discord and special merch. But more important, part 2 right now. So if not, we'll see you next week on TILLN.